I don't have time to do this much planning. We got to get going. But yet they always find time to fix it up later. Always. And they're consistently fixing it up and fixing it up and fixing it up. They always can find them because they have to at that point, rather than just taking a little bit of extra time to plan it correctly from the beginning so the rest goes more smoothly than it has to. And the more you can do up front, the more you can plan, the better chance you have that it's going to move along.
Are you a home builder or remodeler looking to avoid common pitfalls and streamline your operation? Well, in today's episode, I sit down with Brad Haubert, a seasoned home builder who's built over 1,000 homes. And he's also a consultant who's worked with builders from all over the country. And we talk about how to uncover the critical mistakes a lot of builders are making, the importance of the pre-construction process, and where the future of the industry is headed. We also talk about AI and the future of online selling. We cover questions like, how can you choose the right software for your business? What are the systems and processes that are vital for success? How could you, as the leader, be the reason your team isn't adopting new processes? And what does it mean to hug a porcupine? Well, that's what you're going to learn on this episode of the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com. My name is Todd Dawalt. That's spelled Dawalt. I'm your host, and we've been at this for 10 years now at the Construction Leading Edge podcast, and we're all about helping construction business owners have more freedom, more impact, and more wealth by systematizing your construction business. Think self-managing construction company. All right. Well, without further ado, let's get to my conversation with Brad Haubert. Enjoy. Brad, welcome to the Construction Leading Edge podcast. How's it going today?
Oh, it's going great. Great. I've been waiting for you to invite me in. I'm so thankful you finally did. So thanks. I feel like I've made it now. I've made it.
But you may want to set your expectations just a little bit higher, Brad. Otherwise, it's all going to be downhill from here. Well, I'll let you introduce yourself, talk about a little bit about your background and what you're up to today.
Again, my name is Brad Haubert, and I've been in this incredible home building industry since way back in 1993. Joined the family home building business right out of college. Didn't intend to go into home building. I kind of fell into it. Ended up, it was my father's company at the time. And, when you come out of college, you think you know everything. But of course, so you go in and you find you don't know anything, especially about home building. We started. So kind of jumped in, and my father was a believer, like a lot of home builders and contracting firms are, of he used to say, it's kind of like a plumber. He turns on the water. It's my job to stay in front of the pipe and keep it moving. And that's what a lot of home builders do. We're in central Pennsylvania, and we're one of the top, listed in the builder magazines as one of the top builders back in late 90s, early 2000s. Tell a lot of folks too, then 2005, we had the opportunity to buy another home building business, and everything was going great in home building. What could possibly go wrong in home building? So we were dumb enough to buy a second home building company, and I think I went to the bathroom and I came back and found out they named me president, so I would get the junk mail. I think is how that happened. So we had two home building businesses kind of going into the recession. Kind of made it through the recession, but not really. We kind of came out in the end, and then kind of mid 2010s, somewhere in around there, unfortunately both of them closed, and it was just one of those times that is just, anybody that's gone through, and a lot of home builders, as you know, lost a lot in those recessions. And for a couple of years, I didn't want to say anything at that point about it. Joined the folks at ECI Software Solutions, primarily in their MarkSystems software, consulting for them with builders all across North America since then. When I started sharing my story in terms of what I went through, I say that's kind of the basis for what I do now. Is I don't want any builder to ever go through something like that. It's miserable. I used to have hair. I don't have that anymore. And anyway, so that's really where I come from. So I built probably 1,000 or managed 1,000 new homes in my career from the office. They didn't let me out with any tools or anything like that. Now I just get to basically work with home builders all over and looking at their processes and their systems and making sure they look great, primarily using MarkSystems software.
I definitely want to dig into your experience and some of the trends that you've seen auditing and working with so many builders. But here's a question. I'm curious what you think about this. It seems like some construction, well, it doesn't seem like, the fact is, some construction companies, some home building companies and remodeling companies and general contracting firms, they scale up profitably, and some hit a ceiling and they stay stuck. And the reality is some fail. They just don't make it, no matter how good the market is. Do you feel like that's random, or are there reasons that some companies grow and some companies stay stuck? What do you think?
Yeah. No, I think it's a great question, and certainly there's a little bit of randomness to it. I'm never going to say there's never any randomness. There's definitely random. I mean, some is just luck of the draw as things come along. But I think it really comes down to, and I use my own experience too. We were a very manual company. We did everything by Excel spreadsheets. Like my father, he grew up and started in late 60s, early 70s when computers weren't around. So we did everything manually. And that's just how we did that. He didn't necessarily want to look at that. So we didn't have any, I would say, real hard systems in place. That in the family business alone, there's a couple things that just kind of put a monkey wrench into any system. So when times are good, yeah, you can. I've always said you can hide a lot of sins, a lot of stuff that can get past because heck, anybody can do it. Everybody's entering the industry and going from there. But when things happen like 2010s or late 2000s there too, you quickly find out that without systems, you can't really grow or grow profitably. So what happens is when you don't have those systems and you're doing everything manual as we did, you get a new development or two new developments to start building in. Your personnel can't handle it. They only have a finite ability of how much they can do. So at one point, they just get so overwhelmed, you end up staffing up to take care of it and putting in, in our case, we had project managers with superintendents under them. So as you get more work, you're adding more overhead. And then it's a heck of a lot easier to add overhead when you think you need it than when you go, oh, I got to cut back, and you don't want to do that. So I think it's really a systems thing that comes down to it.
In your experience, how crucial is having a good pre-construction process or a pre-construction system to the overall success of a project?
Boy, you can't get much more detail than you need to have in pre-construction. If you don't nail things down at the beginning, you're going to be fighting it the whole way through construction. That was one thing. Even though we were manual, our pre-construction process was a pretty decent process that we do with our customers. I was the one that would ultimately bring everything together, from everything that came in sales, everything on the plan, all the change orders, as long as that's documented. And you need to make sure you're documenting everything, even no cost items that are in there, because it's a heck of a lot easier to say, I'm sorry, someone may have told you that, or you may have remembered right or incorrectly, or it's always an awkward conversation to have. But if you're following everything down, you know exactly what's included in your contract, including any addendums or changes that have done since the beginning of time, and keep those on separate documents that everybody signs off on. As you get closer to the dig on that, you can take those documents, and you always start backwards on the addendums or change orders because the latest one is obviously the most current, or should be. And you're making sure everything that is documented on those addendums and change orders are also documented on the plans as necessary too. If you go through all of that, and then we had, a pre-construction check sheet, which was about 3 pages long, we would go over with the customers and have them sign off on it too. You're going to save yourself so much pain, so much heartache later on because everything's down. Because as soon as you start releasing stuff that is inaccurate, if you have 2 sets of plans, let's just say you made a simple change on it, but there's a big dollar change. If you have 2 sets of plans, I don't know how it works. 50-50 guess out there. Somehow they always pick, a trade or someone's always going to pick the wrong one. I don't know how those percentages work, but it does.
It should be more like flipping a coin, where it's like 50-50, but it's more like 100% of the time they pick the wrong one.
100% time. They'll know somehow how to pick the wrong one. I just don't know how it is. Or you send out one order with, weathered wood shingles, and somewhere along the way they changed to moire black, and you have both of those colors out there. They're going to pick the weathered wood just because that's how they got. I don't know how it is, but it's just how it works.
I see this phenomenon a lot, and I just came up with language for it a couple of years ago, but I saw it on small projects. I saw it in a municipal utility company I ran. I saw it on $30 million commercial real estate projects that I ran. It's what I call the just enough to start trap, where people do just enough to get started. Real estate brokers, love to do just enough to get started. Customers want to do just enough to get started. Owners want to get started. It's like, let's just get started. We just want to see sod getting stripped. We want to see dust in the air and smell sawdust and form oil and diesel fumes. Let's just get started. And that's a trap. That's what I've found. So this whole concept of having a pre-construction phase is foreign to a lot of small businesses, whereas in larger companies, like especially large commercial companies, it's part of their DNA. They have pre-construction because you can't do that. You can't just go start a $30 million project that has 48-week lead times on switchgear and 16-week lead times on structural steel and things like that. But on smaller projects, the belief is you can get away with that. Do you see that lack of discipline in pre-construction a lot in the work you do?
Yeah, actually you do. Because folks are out, hey, we got to haul the mail, we got to, get a hole in the ground and just go ahead and do it. We'll figure it out as it goes on. We've done homes over and over again. We know what we're doing kind of thing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you may have done homes over and over again, but just getting it done because you need a hole in the ground to keep cash flow going or whatever, that lack of planning then usually stops you somewhere else. So if you go, I need a hole in the ground to make sure my next draws are coming in from whomever, whether it's the customer or the bank, ends up costing a lot of builders a lot more money because then they went in, I've seen builders who were building duplexes and they had, 2-unit buildings, and didn't they go and get started and they picked the wrong set, not like a left and a right, but they put a right on a left and a left on a right because they kind of straddled over the next set of lots because they just weren't paying attention enough and just wanted to get a hole in the ground. I remember a story, again, we were the type that would just go and say, we got to get a hole in the ground and dig. My one superintendent, one time he was told to dig, he had no plans or anything. We got to get a hole in the ground. So he actually hired an excavator. Now he was trying to make a point, hired an excavator to go dig a big hole out in the lot, and then he was catching hell for digging a hole with no plans. He said, well, you told me to dig. So he was making a point. It was an expensive way to make a point, but he was making the point that, you're asking him to do something with nothing at this point too.
Why do people get into that trap so frequently and do just enough to get started and then say, we'll figure out the rest of it as we go along? Why? Was it human psychology? What is it?
I think a lot of folks have more confidence in either themselves and those involved than they should. And I'm not saying folks aren't necessarily qualified to do that. It's just, hey, let's get it. I know I'll take care of it, but something comes up and then something else comes up and then it pulls you over here. And before you know it, things move along because, once that construction process gets in process, usually a lot of folks out in the field are decent schedulers, are really good schedulers. Now, not everybody, but those that are have people lined up one after another. So it's just like any type of domino effect. Once it gets started, it's tougher to stop and to kind of put a correction into place to go forward. And it's more expensive to do that too. So I think it's just a matter of those of us in this incredible industry, we're doers. We want to get out. We want to do stuff. And sitting there and waiting is so painful. It's because the industry is one of action anyway. Action is get a hole dug. Let's get something started. We'll make this happen. And sometimes it just gets away from us. And it's well meant, well-meaning or good meaning at it. It's just then all of a sudden this happens, and then the inspector calls, and the homeowner's coming in the door, and the realtor's looking for their check, and you're pulling all different directions, and before you know it, because you started something to get it started, you just don't have time to keep at it.
And what I've found is it's a bit of a snowball. So when you have several things that you did just enough to get started with, that other thing pops up, and then some other thing pops up on project number 3, and then there's a fire on project 4, and then there project number 5, this can you kick down the road finally comes up against a deadline, and then this person you hired, you did just enough to get somebody hired, they come up with problems, and you end up with this chaotic snowball, and you have to stop. It's sort of like the old saying, if you find yourself at the bottom of a hole, put down the shovel, because you can't dig your way out of a hole. And if you're stuck in that just enough to start trap, you'll never get out of it by continuing to do just enough. There has to be a change. at some point. It's very difficult.
Yeah, and I think it's funny. I think as folks go, they go, I don't have time to do this much planning. We got to get going. But yet they always find time to fix it up later, always, and they're consistently fixing it up and fixing it up and fixing it up. They always can find them because they have to at that point, rather than just taking a little bit of extra time to plan it correctly from the beginning, so the rest goes more smoothly than it has to. And not everything will. I mean, we know it's construction. You never know what you're going to get when you start digging a hole. But the more you can do up front, the more you can plan, the better chance you have that it's going to move along really nicely.
Yeah, and I think that's another cognitive bias or another lie we believe. It's like, I don't have time to plan that. You'll find the time to fix it when it becomes urgent. Let's talk about that. When people say to you, like, Brad, I don't have time. I don't have time to plan this out, or I don't have time to think through this whole thing. Let's just get started. Whether it's a software implementation, hiring somebody, or kicking off a project, what do you say to them?
I say that's fine. You can do that, but chances are you're going to need to find the time somewhere in the way, and you're going to end up finding more time later that you probably don't have. If you don't have time right now, believe it or not, you're going to spend more time on this later. And they don't always believe you, at least not at first, until they've experienced enough time, and then they come back and then they go, okay, I see what you're meaning on that too. But that's primarily, I mean, you have to get people to understand that this is a time commitment, and you can either spend a little bit of time doing it correctly up front, or a little bit more time or a lot more time later, bringing it back to what you need it to be. And that's, well, at times money, and money is money too. Either way, you're going to be spending more of both.
A lot of people think that when they say, well, I don't have time, they think that's a reason not to do planning. I don't have time to plan. But to me, that's what I'm hearing is the fact that you don't have time is a symptom that you're not doing planning.
Sure.
And that's sort of like saying, so, well, my leg hurts so bad that I don't have time to go to the hospital and get the broken bone fixed. That's ridiculous. It
sure is. Yeah.
If you don't fix it, it's going to continue to hurt. And that's when people say, I don't have time, I don't have enough time to go fix this recurring chronic problem in my business. Well, the reason you don't have time is because of that chronic recurring problem, and nothing's ever going to change unless you go fix that. So it takes a different mindset. But some people, they just never make that recognition. They just think, well, I'm busy, I don't have time. Or they say, when I have more time, then I'll go fix that thing. When I have more time, I'll plan. When I have more time, I'll put systems in place. But that doesn't work either, in my experience. Yeah.
I think some of them sometimes come in and they like that I'm here to fix anything that comes up. And there's kind of an underlying, I know that sounds a little weird, but there are some that like the fact that, hey, if something comes up, I can handle it and I can do that type of thing. But yet that's okay, but there's no way that you can really grow your business if you're consistently like, I like to be the fixer. I like to be the one that can solve the problems on that too, rather than planning it up front, having it good, and then having time to go grow the business in other ways too, or not have to put in extra people because you have a process in place so you don't feel so overwhelmed. I think sometimes folks are afraid to get out of that because they're so used to what they're doing that until they experience like finally letting go of something that they're used to, because they're somewhat good at solving the problems, or they are good at solving problems, they don't realize what else is out there that could be even better for them. Does that kind of make sense?
It's a comfort level. As crazy as it sounds, they're comfortable with the chaos. And when there's no fires to put out, they struggle with, well, what do I do? I don't know how to think or operate strategically because I've never done it, but I'm damn good at putting out fires. So consciously or subconsciously, it's like, well, let's just let some fires burn a little bit, and then I could jump in and be the firefighter and pat myself on the back. I feel really good doing that.
There's a lot of truth to that.
Let's talk about your experience. You've worked with lots of builders. You've built lots of homes yourself. But I'm curious, in your work auditing the operations of home builders, what are some of the most common mistakes that you see builders making?
A lot of times, like I said, in the audits that we go through, we look at each of the primary departments that we go in. I spend a couple hours with each one. And I like doing those, certainly in person with the folks, because you can pick up on so many nuances and those type of things. I think one big one is a lack of controls they put into place with their software. They have, I found different points where you come in and salespeople had, let's just say, passwords to things to be able to ultimately change pricing and those types of things too. Sometimes that can be okay. Sometimes it's not. You get someone kind of on the buddy side of things. I think probably more so than anything, it's really a matter of management not necessarily enforcing standards and procedures as they get into something. And it might be for a number of different items. It might just be they themselves don't necessarily believe in something that they're doing, but more often than not, it's the owners themselves getting in and going, okay, it's okay for everybody else to do it, but not me. And they kind of set that precedence without knowing it, that they're going in and not having people follow procedures because they don't want to do it. I've had VPs of construction come, and as I'm doing audits, I'm talking about how they're using the scheduling part of this, and I can tell there's something, and you keep digging a little bit and digging a little bit as you're talking, and you find out they go, well, I don't believe in this. I like to use Excel because that's what I've done. And all of a sudden you go, oh, okay, I see why. In my mind, I'm knowing right away they're not committed themselves to what their company is investing in enough. And because they're not committed, they're not pushing it, they're not enforcing it. And they're probably the first one to say, I don't care about this, do it my way because this is the way I want to do it. And they're shooting themselves in the foot is what happens with it. And at that point, sometimes I have to come back, and because it's more software, sometimes I say, you guys are wasting money on software. And you hate to say that for, working for the software company, but that's really what they're doing. And I think a lot of places, and it's not only software, it's on a lot of things. I know you've seen it. Sometimes folks want to throw money at a problem, and they think, okay, I'll pay for this. I'll pay for consulting service. I'll pay for this. But yet they don't go and listen to their own advice and do anything. So they're spending money. Yeah, okay. But, from a consultant side of standpoint, okay, if they don't want to, they'll be calling me again to continue to do work for them. I mean, that's just the consulting side of it. You don't want that. I mean, all of us, I think, in this industry, or most all of us, I think, in this industry, put out great advice, and you can get yourself out of the forest to be able to look at that and be able to say, this is what's going on. You might not like hearing it, but this is what's going on. So if they're going to invest in that, they really have to know that they can be their own worst enemy, but get out of it. And so a lot of times it's upper management who want something except for themselves. And then as soon as they don't want it and can skirt around it, that pretty much takes it away from anybody else. Why does anybody else have the incentive to do so?
Lack of controls, lack of standards, and lack of procedures, lack of protocols, owners and upper management not following procedures, owners and upper management saying, that's for everybody else, but I'm gonna freestyle this, do what I want.
And key individuals also sometimes hoarding the own information on their own stuff. And part of that is either, and I've had, again, we have an integrated software we work with. Everything should be out there, but I've gone in with folks that still keep everything in Excel somewhere over here on their own. And then they go on vacation for a week or two, and no one can do anything until they're back. So because they kind of hoard that themselves, I don't know, it might be job security or something on those ends, but more often than not, it's just like, hey, this is how we've always done it. It's how I'm comfortable. That comfort level is what keeps people kind of stagnant.
We've done a lot of work with companies who use software, and they've signed up for software only to find out that they weren't really ready for software yet. There were some things they needed to put in place first. They bought the software, opened it up to find out that it's empty. It's fantastic. It's a great way to run processes and systems and things like that, but it doesn't come preloaded with those customized processes and systems. What would you say are some of for people who are thinking about starting with new software, what's the first process or system that they should design, or what's the work they need to do first so that their new software can be successful?
Well, I think they have to really define who they are as a builder, because as soon as they know that and everybody recognizes that, then they can start to say, what exactly do I need to mine? If you're all custom type of builder and you go, we don't fit into it, pretty much we'll do whatever comes out of this pen. Well, that's a different type of software than those that go, nope, I want to do, for lack of better terms, cookie cutters, or those that go, well, I want to do kind of the same ones over and over again. I want to be able to have options of those type of things. Again, completely different on that. Then it's just a matter of, what processes are standardized, and kind of build from there. Construction scheduling is a good one. Do you have a consistent schedule that you're following? And if you have more than one superintendent out in the field, are they following the same one or not? More often than not, they usually aren't right now. They go, oh, well, Jerry likes to do it his way, and Sharon, she has her way of doing it. He likes Excel. She just likes to call up. He has a board that he actually puts a little X on as they go across. And that's fine. But at one point, if you're going to get everything kind of together, you have to start standardizing some of those types of things. If that's your business structure on that. Custom might be a little tougher to do that, but overall, parts and pieces of a house pretty much go together in the same order. Because what that's going to do, if you do something that you can standardize across the way, then you can start to get some data points out of it, and you can better manage. Because if it's pretty much the Wild West, well, how can you say that Bill's doing a better job than Sharon? Completely different houses might be, but if you are building the same house over again, using the same schedule and over, it's just a matter of bringing them all in the room, let them, arm wrestle a little bit until they figure out, okay, this is something that we can work with, and build off of that and kind of move forward. So I think you, again, really just have to know what type of home builder you are, know what processes you need to have, and start thinking about the way to do that. And then as you start looking at the softwares, look into them a little bit more. It's easy for folks to go out and just say something on the internet and go, oh, I'm going to take that and go, because it's bright, shiny object kind of syndrome. You go out and you find out, okay, but it doesn't quite do what you need, just because a lot of folks have it. It might not be right for you. You have to make sure it's going in. And the more you can do that, the more you can kind of centralize everything, get it all integrated works too. I've been out with builders that have a smart sheet, and they have QuickBooks, and they have Excel over here, and then they use SharePoint up here, and they have about 10 different places to go, but none of them are really talking to each other, or at least without a lot of effort. And usually those who have taken those and somehow got them to talk together usually hinges on one person. And when that one person is gone, they're in trouble. No one knows where to go at that point. No one knows how they worked or how to fix it.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice to start by deciding what kind of builder are you? It's like, if you think about your business as a machine, what do you want this machine to produce? What will it build? Will it do small remodeling projects, home services, $2 million custom homes, $200,000 production homes, semi-custom? Will you deal with customers making selections? Will you not? Do you need a warranty system? Do the hard work of figuring out, what do you want? What do you want your business to do? And then let's go find a piece of software that does that. Then you have some things to check against. Like, does it have the ability for custom selections? Well, if you're a custom builder, custom remodeler, that's really important. If you're a commercial GC, you've got to be able to do RFIs and submittals. And if your software doesn't have that, you're going to be screwed. So I think you're exactly right. People are like, I don't want to make a decision. I want to write a check and make this go away, throw money at it. Maybe that goes back to just enough to start. Like, I just want to get started with something. Maybe it's that same mentality. Yeah.
As you look into the software, understand kind of who's behind that. And I'm a little biased, but because here where we work, they do get those of us who've been in the industry. So I tell everybody, I'm not just a good-looking computer nerd. I'm a good-looking computer nerd who knows the industry. I've done enough houses. I know that. Whereas a lot of the software companies out there that are out there do not have people in the industry. They're hiring folks, kids right out of college that have no experience. Like me, when I walked in, thought I knew everything. They go, okay, here's the software and teach it to you. And then they come in, they don't really know anything about it. And a lot of them don't even know the data. They just kind of get you out there, and then you can sink or swim on your own. Whereas that's one of the things I'm proud about where I work, is that, we do get in there, we get to talk, and it's like, oh, this person gets my business. They've been in this too, and they completely understand what we're doing too. So that helps, because there have been times I got involved with people and go, you know what, this is not the right software for you. I hate to tell you that, but we might have something else that is.
Yeah, that's really important. That there's such a divide between software, the implementation coaches or the software salespeople, and builders. Completely different worlds, very little overlap, and they speak completely different languages. And it's so difficult to find somebody like who can speak both languages, but so important. So that's fantastic. I've run into a few software companies who recruit construction people and who can talk software and construction. But then I've talked to some other folks. They don't know what a punch list is or basic terminology. And that's it's not very comforting if you're thinking about investing, not just writing a check for a subscription, but all the time and energy and effort it's going to take to implement that software. So let's talk about implementation, adoption, implementation. One of the common things I hear is I can't get my people to fill in the blank. I can't get them to use the software. I can't get them to fill out daily logs, which is a huge problem. I can't get my people to follow this process. What advice would you give to owners who struggle to get their team on board with new technology or new processes?
I'd say first check yourself to make sure you're not skirting it. I mean, we talked about that a little bit earlier too. If you're out there and going, well, you have to do it, but I don't, well, that's setting the kind of that bad precedent. So lead by example on that too. Second, again, looking at yourself too. It's remember who owns the company, who's paying the paychecks after a while. And I don't mean that you need to be draconian or anything on that, but you need to be able to show them the wins that are coming with it. Keep reminding them where you want to get to. Say, hey, that's fine. If you don't have time to learn the software, you're never going to get the time because we're not improving anything. And the whole idea and the whole reason we're putting this investment out here is to get structure, is to get processes. So all of us can, go home at night and be with the kids and, have a life outside of here and not be stuck worrying about things day in, day out. We want to get to that point. So it's really anybody that's doing that, they really need to make sure that they're on board and their leadership is on board. It can't typically all fall on the owner. It's not a smaller business. You don't have those different structures, and I get that. But it still comes down to, we've invested in this software, in this process. Let's do it. Let's do it right. And, almost have to prove me wrong over time. Now, I hate to say that because we all know if people don't want something to happen, they can self-ordain if it's going to be successful or not. If they don't want it to be, it's not going to be. But if ownership is truly bought in, they truly understand this is where we want to go, they have to be as invested as their employees in. And they have to show them that they are actively working on it too, even if it means some tough changes for themselves.
That's often overlooked. The guy in the mirror or the gal in the mirror is often the reason people aren't implementing it. It takes a little bit of self-awareness. Yeah, that's good.
And that's part of the audit sometimes when I do that. Sometimes in the report, you have to say that. And they may not like it. They may get mad. But sometimes I've found those who get mad at you at first, over time come and go, you know what? He's kind of right. And once they realize that, they become some of the best customers that are out there because ultimately, sometimes you have to have that kind of confrontation. I don't know if that's the right word, but you have to have that bluntness for someone to be able to tell you that, because often as owners, you don't get that bluntness from people. People just say yes because they think you're the owner and they have to. I was running a company. I always wanted to hear the truth, even if it was pretty dang sucky at the time, you have to hear that. You have to say, where are we not doing right? And I think those who are maybe kind of focused on, okay, let's look for what's not right and fix that. The other stuff kind of takes care of itself over here, but let's kind of continuously improve by looking at those things too.
Yeah, I'm curious, what are a couple of the questions that you ask to try to find where problems are? Do you have any favorite questions you can ask?
That's hard to say because it depends on the part and every kind of builder's use. But usually I just kind of continue to dig and I get very granular when I'm talking on, and I'm taking notes the whole time as I'm going. And a lot of it is just saying, okay, so tell me how this is. And as soon as you hear them kind of glaze over something, I usually zero in and say, okay, well, you said you did this. What happens? I mean, you're picking up the phone or you're emailing or you're walking over and sometimes it gets them a little uncomfortable. And then sometimes I even get them mad because they think I'm asking questions like, well, what's that matter? But it really does, because as you find out different things, you find ways They go, well, and you can tell they're starting to hem and haw a little bit, but when you really push them for it, you find out, well, I just, walk over and they tell me and I just go and type it in and keep on moving or something like that. But I think it really comes down to getting into, and it depends on the department, is, asking them to really lay out their procedure. And like, okay, it doesn't just get there. How does it get there? So as you keep asking the question a couple times, yeah, it gets uncomfortable. Sometimes it gets little headbutting going on, but ultimately it leads to a really good diagnosis of what's going on. And the one construction manager, like I said, I remember I was going over and I couldn't figure out, and he was not answering questions very much at all. And then I could tell he was getting agitated with all the questions I asked until he finally said, all right, I'm going to tell you, I don't like using this because and I mentioned it before, I like using Excel or Microsoft Project at the time. And that's what I'm going to use. I'm going, okay, so this is your VP of construction who has 5 or 6 superintendents under him. You're either going to have to get this person in line or you're never going to get anything done. And then your superintendents go, well, yeah, he doesn't like it. He wants to use Microsoft Project. Let's continue to do it that way so we can continue to do this. And then, you keep moving on. And so that's usually where you find something at. You get them kind of keep asking the details until they get real.
Have to be okay with some awkward silence and digging in a little bit. Well, tell me about this. And wait a minute, maybe I'm missing something here. And a lot of people would be like, this is uncomfortable. Let's just move on to the next question. But like in that case, nothing in the software would have solved that problem.
Yeah, right.
Right. And
exactly.
I had a conversation with a client who was a production builder, and he was doing $40 or $50 million a year in revenue. And he had tried one software package. He was using a second software package, and he was so frustrated that he was thinking about paying hiring a software developer, paying 6 figures to custom code some software. And I said, let's put a pin in that. Let's dig into what's actually happening here before we do that, because what it turned out was no amount of software would solve the problem, because it was just chaos and there were a few people who weren't on board, and we had to map out roles and responsibilities. We had to document a process. One person had to leave. It became apparent. And I think a lot of people, they sign up for software, then it doesn't work, and they assume it's the software's problem. But what you're talking about, these are the root causes, and those root cause problems are difficult to get to. They're not there on the surface, not very visible, and somebody has to dig them out. And sometimes it helps to be that outside perspective that can see the forest and the trees. Yeah.
If they'll listen to it. And they don't always up first, but if they're serious about it, after a while, they will come around at that point too, because you're right. Software doesn't solve something out of the box, or, as soon as it's installed, it has to be designed just like home has to be designed.
A friend of mine used to do some consulting, and very similar to what you do for a software company. And he talked about going in to a business, and he started having some conversations with their controller, the person who handled all the accounting. And the person was really evasive, vague, didn't really answer questions. And I don't know if they got confrontational, but they were very vague and couldn't produce much information. And my friend went back to the owner and said, I think you have a problem. And I think you need to put some controls in place, because as it turned out, this person was stealing from the company. And what I've found is sometimes people don't want to know. Owners don't ask the hard questions because they don't really want to know what's going on.
Yeah, that or believe that no one would ever do anything. They've been with me forever, and that's the other one. They don't think it. And a lot of construction owners, a lot of home builders who get into this kind of fall into the position overall. They know how to put together a house, but they aren't necessarily business managers. And yet they're also afraid to tell anybody, hey, I don't really know the financials of this. I don't really know what I'm looking at. So it's a little bit of all that. Some of it is right. Yeah, I don't want to know. Some are afraid to let you know they don't know, but can, kind of see the basics of putting the house together, and some just are oblivious that there are nefarious people out there that don't really care as much as you think they care about your business too. And without those controls, I think I did kind of an interview in one of the classes I put together with Nicole Landau of Landau Consulting, who works on accounting fraud, those types of things, and she can tell you horror stories like you don't believe on types of things that people have been with you forever. And I'm gonna say I was guilty of that myself. Kind of was going into a business. I didn't know anything about accounting. I knew positive at the bottom was good and negative was bad. We always wanted positive down there, and that's what a lot of builders do. They look at the bottom line and go, okay, it's positive. Might not be as high as I want, or maybe it is. Keep on going, but don't really know how those numbers got there. And it's just nature of the beast sometimes, because you fall into a position and you kind of hope for the best.
I had a business partner stealing from me for a while. And that hurts. And I saw some early indicators, saw some red flags, ignored them because I didn't want to believe it. But in hindsight, that was pretty dumb. So there are nefarious people out there. And one of the best things I've ever heard, I think maybe Nicole may have shared this with me, is if you're thinking, gosh, what sort of controls can I put in place to prevent fraud? Review your bank statements every month and make sure everybody knows that you're going to review line by line your bank statements every month. That eliminates, or at least creates, some concern that somebody's actually looking, which will reduce the chances of fraud. So let's switch gears and talk about the future. Where do you see the home building industry headed in the next few years? And what should builders be doing right now to be able to prepare for it? Is there a wave of opportunity coming? Is there another recession coming? Is the home building industry going in a specific direction? What do you think?
Wow, it's always good, and I always try to predict a little bit out here. I mean, I think we're going to continue to see kind of a reduction in qualified trades, and it's unfortunate to say. I mean, as kind of those older generations die off, you don't see as many folks coming in as we probably need to replace that. So unfortunately, we're going to have to try to figure out. Now, lately I've seen some things, talking about how some of the millennials are now going to TikTok and doing their thing and making all these, all this money. But now, are they making it on TikTok, or are they actually making it doing the work as they come out there? That's kind of the question on there too. But I think you're going to continue to see kind of a shrinking of that, and more builders are going to be competing for a smaller trade base. So they're going to be doing two things. They need builders and home builders or modelers, and those folks need to have their acts together. So trades know when I come to their job, the information is correct, the schedule's correct, and because these people have their act together. So that's going to be number one, because those who have the better processes, the better systems, the better schedules are going to be the ones that are going to be retaining that smaller one. They're going to be more of a builder or modeler that folks want to work for. But I think they're also going to have to be looking at some more thoughts of offsite construction. We're seeing that popping up more and more. Way back in the 90s, we did a couple panelized walls on townhomes. We were among the first to try them out in our area. They went okay at that point. Usually something happened that wasn't planned out correctly. You had a window at the wrong place or something, and but that goes back to our pre-construction planning, I think, as that comes around too. You're going to see more and more of that because that's going to be the best way they're going to be able to control some of those costs if they can. Even on some of the custom ones, I mean, we see some offsite construction folks that are able to take any plans and develop them. It doesn't have to be kind of, a mass-produced type of wall system or anything like that. I think you're also going to be seeing AI. I mean, AI is big for folks too. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to affect, obviously, on the sales side of things. I think the online sales counselor position, I don't know what that's going to do with it, but a lot of the AI can direct you, as you're seeing on a lot of websites, to the point where folks are able to buy houses online. The virtual model homes are going to be replacing a lot of the physical model homes, I think, as we continue on, because as home builders, I think you're going to be able to say, why invest, $400,000 in building something here when, customers today are just as comfortable buying homes online from something they've seen. That never would have thought we would have done that with cars, and likes of Carvana came across. Never would have thought of homes, but we're seeing different companies out there who are advertising by, sight unseen. And, the younger generation, they don't know what it's like to not have computers to have to do that. And a lot of them, and I'm not trying to be stereotypical saying, but a lot of them they're just used to technology. They're used to not having to talk to someone, getting the information they need. So I think builders who start to embrace it, whether it be the AI and that, I think warranty will be AI generated in some way too. I think the sales and warranty are going to be the first two. And the offsite construction, just start dabbling in it. Try it a little bit here and there. You don't have to go, whole hog into it yet too. Just try it a little bit. And then as that success works on it, try something else too. Some of those will be cost savings in terms of personnel you don't need. Some of it's just letting the customers kind of weed themselves out, and then focusing only on the ones that really get in and are ready to buy.
So let's talk about MarkSystems home builder software. What type of companies use your software, and what problems do you solve for them?
Well, MarkSystems is primarily for those builders who want to build the same models and elevations, different elevations, and have a set of, I guess, primary options that they offer that you can mix and match so they can look like they're a custom builder, but still have some controls into place. Say, these are the elevations we do. That's probably our bread and butter. That's where we see most. Most are probably in the, I'm going to say 75 to 400 or 500 homes a year type of deal. We have ones that are up over 1,000. We have some startups that are in here too. I would say they would be most successful if they go, no, we are ready to follow a process and we want to standardize a couple things so it's easy to reproduce over and over and over again. It's all that systems and process putting into place. So it's an integrated software that handles everything from the sales side, construction, land development, purchasing, accounting, and right through warranty. So can move through all of those things. It's all integrated, it all talks to one another if you have it all set up correct. Nice thing with ECI though, that's kind of that market for MarkSystems. ECI, our parent company that owns MarkSystems, has a whole residential construction division, and they have a whole bunch of different softwares for folks in the home building and construction industry. So whether you're, in the sales only, they have the Lasso CRM. If you're a small builder or remodeler, there's Build Tools. Trade contractors can use our Bolt product, and then we have LotView and InSearch for design studios. So about everything the home builder or someone in this industry could use, they have kind of a solution for it. And what's nice is as they continue along, they're just talking to each other kind of almost seamlessly as they move through. So a customer can go from the CRM right through the warranty and design center and all that stuff too. So that's primarily who we're mostly working with too.
How many construction companies does ECI work with? Is it in the hundreds, thousands, 10,000s?
My guess for all their different products, it's probably in the thousands at that point. And MarkSystems is probably 400 or 500, I'm guessing. I don't know, something like that. And of course, then when you bring in everything else, I'm sure it goes into the thousands on that too.
Couple of rapid fire questions for you. What's something you believe to be true about business that some might think is unconventional, maybe even crazy?
Well, now I have a background in family business. I mentioned that at the beginning too. And I tell a lot of folks that, if you're not in a family business, you think, boy, it must be pretty darn nice. And I say home building itself is a tough business. It's a tough business. Let's face it, with everything you're facing. You add family into the mix, that magnifies that more than anything. Now, it's funny because I was the son of an owner too. And as I look at that, I go, well, the owner takes that a little harder on the sons because they're trying, or sons or daughters or whoever at this point, because they want others to think, oh, they're my kid, I'm going to go easy on them or something like that. So as the son of one of the sons of the owner, yeah, I think we got it tougher on that too. Now, those outside of me might be going, yeah, he's full of it. He had it easier than everybody too. So kind of the family business, I think it's great, but folks who say, yeah, we can leave it at the boardroom table and we don't take it home to the dinner table, they're fooling you. You can't, because especially in a family-owned business, the home building side of it, that becomes, it's your family's identity. It's who you are. So people might think I'm crazy on that, I think, but unless you're kind of involved in the family-owned business, a lot of folks in this industry are, you don't really necessarily understand that. And as a result of that, because family business is a little bit more familiar, I guess, a little bit more lax, so goes the controls and those types of things that you don't think you need to have the systems and process. We're family, we'll figure it out type of thing. So I think a lot of folks get into that too. And we were guilty of it as anybody. You just kind of figured it out, and you did what you could, and until you couldn't anymore, too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Some people would think, well, we're family, we can work it out. But what I've heard our clients say who are family-owned businesses is because we're a family-owned business, that makes having clearly defined roles and responsibilities more important. It's more important that we have processes because there's more at stake if expectations are missed, because we don't leave it at the office. It comes home, and Christmas dinners end up talking about this kind of stuff. So that's a really good point. Another question I like to ask everybody: what town do you live in? And what is the restaurant or bar in that town that people should not miss if they ever visit?
Well, I'm Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, so it's right across the river from our capital of Harrisburg. So a lot of stuff kind of focuses in on the Harrisburg part. And the restaurant I love is Gabriella's Italian Restaurant. Authentic Italian, good stuff, nice atmosphere, and not a chain or anything like that. So it was always good. So check it out, Gabriella's.
What's the go-to dish at Gabriella's?
Oh, I like it's a penny pink vodka sauce. It's my favorite on that one too. My birthday later this week, and I just might be going there. So
all right, good. Happy early birthday. Well, this has been great, Brad.
Hey,
if people want to connect with you, follow you on social media, or get in touch with you, or find out more about the work you guys are doing, where are some of the best places or place for them to do that?
Well, I hang out on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active over there. It's Brad Haubert on LinkedIn. Try to post something every morning on that too. I also have been building a brand called Welcome to Home Building. So if you go to welcometohomebuilding.com, you can see kind of what I'm doing there. I have my incredible growing home building glossary on there too. So I'm consistently adding words on there that people should know, and had a couple other people on, just continue to grow and have a little bit of fun on that. A Facebook group of the same name is out there too. It's not about software or anything. It's just really about learning home building and kind of getting together and supporting each other too. And obviously ECIsolutions.com, you can find out pretty much any of the products we have for the residential home construction. But most time, look to follow me. Look on LinkedIn and or that Facebook group. The others, I have an Instagram account, but I don't post anything there typically, and or on any of like X or anything like that.
Great stuff. I'll include those links in the show notes. Brad, I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time to be on here. You've shared some great advice, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm so honored you asked me, and love what you're doing for the industry too, and continued wishes for success for you.
I appreciate it. Thanks, man. Hey, it's Todd here. And one more thing before you go. Look, if you own a construction business and you want to put the right systems in place so you can either scale it up, maybe you want to step away from it, be able to take a proper vacation, maybe you want to sell it someday, maybe you just want to have more freedom, or maybe make it more profitable, or maybe you just want to get out of constant firefighting mode and make your phone stop ringing all the time. You really have three options if you want to make a meaningful change in your business. Option one is do nothing. Status quo, keep doing the same things, getting the same results. Option two, you can DIY it. You can do it yourself. You can reinvent the wheel. You can read books, listen to podcasts, try to piece together a solution, use trial and error. Or option number three, if you want meaningful change, is to find a proven system that delivers the results you're looking for. Sort of like if you use software for project management or for your bookkeeping, I assume you probably didn't try to code your own software. You found a proven system that delivered the results you're looking for, right? Well, if you're looking for a proven system to systematize your business, we've helped hundreds of construction business owners implement our systems in their business, specifically our nail the handoff pre-construction process in their business. It works for home builders, remodelers, commercial general contractors. It also works really well for trade contractors like electricians, concrete contractors, site, utility, plumbing. And it's part of our Systematize Your Construction Business program. So if you want to see what systematizing your business looks like, what nailing the handoff looks like, and the positive side effects that come with that, then the next step would be to schedule a free business evaluation call with my team. And you could do that by going to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY, or just go to our website, constructionleadingedge.com, and tap the Apply Now button. You'll learn about the 5-step process we've helped hundreds of people implement to systematize their construction business. Most importantly, you'll get an objective third-party evaluation of your business to answer one Really big question. Is your business designed to fail, or is it designed to succeed? So let me ask you this. If your business was unintentionally designed to fail, when would you rather find out? Now, while there's time to do something about it, or later on when it's maybe too late? This business evaluation call is totally free. There are no strings attached, no pressure. And it could be the best hour you've spent working on your business in a long time. So our schedule fills up pretty quickly. So if you're interested, go over to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, or go to constructionleadingedge.com and tap the Apply Now button to book your business evaluation call. Hey, thanks for listening. I hope you got value out of this podcast. If you could take a moment, if you did, and leave a rating or a review or share this with somebody who needs to hear it, I would appreciate it. Todd Dawalt from Construction Leading Edge. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.